Serving the public as the grand bridge it was first envisioned to be by its designers over a century ago. Our trip begins in Staunton, located in Augusta County. Staunton was first settled in 1732. The Virginia General Assembly established it as a town by 1761, and it was later incorporated by 1801. Staunton is so named after the wife of colonial governor Sir William Gooch, a Mrs. Lady Rebecca Staunton. Prior to the coming of the railroad, farmers in the area had no way to get their goods to markets in eastern or western Virginia. So that is exactly why the railroad was built. When the railroad was completed, farmers could sell their goods to stores in Charlottesville, Richmond, and many other cities. The focal point for shipping those goods was at the local railroad station, where boxcars would be loaded and then shipped to their destination. The railroad allowed the towns in the area to grow and prosper. During the Civil War, Staunton played an important role as a manufacturing center, troop staging area, and supply depot. Staunton is the birthplace of the 28th President of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, and the location of his presidential library. Staunton is also home to country music legends, the Stacker Brothers, and food education organizations, including Mary Baldwin University and Virginia School for the Deaf and Blind. Today, Staunton has a population of about 25,000 people. When the Virginia Central Railroad laid tracks from the Blue Ridge Mountains to Staunton by 1854, it also established a locomotive and car shop in the area, now called C&O Flats, located on the western side of Staunton. Today, C&O Flats is the location of Buckingham Branch's rail yard and dispatch center. Since 2004, Buckingham Branch has provided local freight service to businesses in and around Staunton, as well as deliver and or receive freight cars with the Shenandoah Valley Railroad, which is another short line railroad located just on the northeast side of Staunton. Staunton is also a stop for Amtrak's famous passenger train, the Cardinal, which has two trains running the same route, just one running east to west, the other west to east. These train routes between New York down through Washington, D.C., Charlottesville, Staunton, and Clifton Forge, Virginia, west-northwest to Huntington, West Virginia, on its way over to Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and lastly, Chicago, in a large U-type shape. It's roughly a 26.5-hour journey. The Cardinal stops in Staunton 3 times a week, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday.
See, that's the end.
south side of the train car, you'll be able to spot one of Buckingham Branch's freight customers, the Augusta Co-op. The Augusta Co-op started in 1929 when 205 farmers gathered at Weir's Cave, a little rail stop just north of here. The farmers decided to join together and collectively borrowed $3,000 to be able to effectively market and distribute agriculture products and farm supplies to local patrons. In 1932, the co-op expanded. Then, 20 years after its original opening, the co-op created a retail store and corporate offices, moving everything into the location you see here today in Staunton. In 1972, Augusta Co-op built a state-of-the-art steel feed mill that you'll be able to observe as we go by. The mill manufactures over 23,000 tons of feed annually. The liquid fertilizer plant was added in 1975. It may sound like an odd word, but transloading is a shipping term that refers to the transfer of goods from one mode of transportation to another that's en route to an ultimate destination. Transloading can provide significant cost savings to manufacturers producing products often purchased or shipped in large bulk amounts or are heavy in weight. Rail can provide a significant savings not only in cost, but reduces truck travel on major interstates and is environmentally friendly as compared to other modes of transportation when compared to amount of tonnage moved per mile per gallon of fuel. Grand siding. This is a track siding that's slightly over 1 mile in length. This location is used for trains to be able to safely pass each other. Today you'll be traveling over a portion of the Buckingham Branch Railroad's Richmond and Allegheny Division. This division extends 199 miles between Richmond and Clifton Forge, Virginia. On this line, the Buckingham Branch Railway delivers rail cars to or receives rail cars directly from 3 other railroads, including CSX Transportation, Norfolk Southern, and the Shenandoah Valley Railroad. This is a busy freight line with many types of trains operating on it. On any given day, we may pass one of the Buckingham Branch's 4 local freight trains while it provides last-mile delivery service to over 30 customers that rely on this route. In addition to Buckingham Branch's trains, this route is also used by CSX Transportation to move empty coal and grain trains from East Coast ports back to the coal fields of West Virginia or the grain mills of the Midwest. If we're lucky today, we just might get to pass one of these freight trains pulling 175 to 200 plus rail cars. In addition to these freight trains, this track is also used by Amtrak's long-distance passenger train named the Cardinal. The Cardinal runs between New York's Penn Station and Chicago's Union Station in a big U shape. The Cardinal runs on the Buckingham Branch's Richmond and Allegheny line for roughly 125 miles. Now, you may be thinking that's a lot of trains on one line, and you'd be right. More than 150,000 freight and passenger rail cars annually traverse the R&A division. The Buckingham Branch is responsible for all track construction and maintenance, signals, and rail traffic control, also known as dispatching, for all BB, CSXT, and Amtrak trains. In order to safely coordinate all the train movements on the line, Buckingham Branch's Rail Traffic Control Center, located in Staunton, communicates with these trains using a combination of radio systems, train signal systems, and train traffic control software to ensure the safe and efficient movement of all the trains, including this one. Now, we welcome you to sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride on the Virginia Scenic Railway.
There's a silo that means the barn burned down.
And on the way back, the conductor it'll be open.
They're building cylinders there.
Ask for a Diet Coke. Water. Got Diet Coke.
I already had that done. Is the other track over there?
It was over there. Couldn't see
We're
it.
gonna cook.
Yep,
Salted
that was me.
and dill pickles. I'm not allowed a regular napkin, so here's a mess of drink napkins.
Oh, thank you. These are the best. Look at that. Another solar field.
Over 22,000. It's the largest city between Staunton and Charlottesville. Waynesboro took its name from General Anthony Wayne, a famous Revolutionary War soldier who later commanded troops in various military campaigns, including the Battle of Fallen Timbers in Maumee, Ohio. Waynesboro is close to several outdoor recreation opportunities, such as the Skyline Drive, the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Appalachian Trail, and the Blue Ridge Tunnel Walking Trail. And surrounding all those wonderful outdoor experiences, you'll find numerous craft breweries and restaurants to recharge your battery. Then stroll through the quaint shops and pick up something to remind you of your trip here. If you happen to look out and down from the side of the car, you may be able to catch a glimpse of railroad tracks beneath us as we pass over them. This section of track is part of the 2,500-mile Crescent Corridor belonging to the Norfolk Southern Railway. This corridor spans from the state of Louisiana to the state of New Jersey, providing a fast, direct, green alternative for moving commodities from the southwest to the northeast. The portion of the corridor you'll be in runs from Roanoke up through Waynesboro on its way to Shenandoah Yard in Gage County. This area of Waynesboro was once known as Basic City. Formed in 1890, it was named after a process used in steel manufacturing. Between 1890 and 1893, this area boomed as two railroads crossed here at a point called the Iron Cross, with the two railroads being the Virginia Central, later known as the Chesapeake and Ohio, and the Pennsylvania Railroad, later known as the Norfolk and Western, and then Norfolk Southern. Basic City was once larger than Waynesboro. However, the Depression between 1893 and 1896 resulted in many of the new industries closing. In 1924, Basic City consolidated into the adjacent town of Waynesboro. The name then became known as Waynesboro Basic, later shortened to just Waynesboro by 1948. The area once known as Basic City became one of several lost towns in Virginia. As we start to climb towards Afton Mountain, down the embankment out the south side of the car is just one of the many craft breweries in the area. This local attraction is known as Basic City Beer. This brewery bears the
There's
name
a train.
of this long-ago area.
Alright guys, I do have a question for everybody, and you can vote by hooting and hollering if you'd like. Is it alright if we turn off all the lights when we go through the tunnel?
Yeah!
Sounded like a resounding yes. That's alright, so am I, but I'm doing it for you guys. So you don't want me to do that? I'm gonna keep an eye on you. Alright. Just scream it. Alright, lights out, guys.
ascend the mountain, we're getting ready to pass through the Blue Ridge Tunnel. If you listen for several long horn blows, that's an indication that we're getting ready to enter the tunnel. These long whistle blows are done as a warning to anyone who may be walking inside the tunnel to get out as a train is coming. The tunnel does have a gutter system beneath the track bed on each side, as well as a few spots in the wall where any individual who may not be able to get out of the way in time can duck into in order to not be smushed between the train and the close clearance of the tunnel walls. The Blue Ridge Tunnel was constructed between 1850 and 1858 under the direction of Colonel Claudius Crozet. Crozet was so chosen as the chief civil engineer by the Blue Ridge Railroad, which was overseen by the Virginia Board of Public Works, an organization which he had served on for several years. The Board of Public Works worked under the direction of the Virginia General Assembly, which had chartered for the purchase and financing of the railroad. More to come on Claudius Crozet later. Over 800 Irish immigrants and 40 enslaved African-American laborers were used to build the Blue Ridge Tunnel. Nearly 200 deaths occurred during its construction due to accidents and disease. The tunnel was the westernmost and longest of 4 tunnels Claudius Crozet was charged with engineering to cross the Blue Ridge Mountains at Rockfish Gap. The other 3 tunnels were called the Little Rock Tunnel, the Brookville Tunnel, and the Greenwood Tunnel. The original Blue Ridge Tunnel was 4,237 feet long. At the time of its construction, it was known as the longest tunnel in the United States. From the eastern entrance, the tunnel slopes upward from an elevation of 1,430 feet to an elevation of 1,500 feet at the western end. Claudius Crozet's plan to construct the tunnel consisted of teams of workers advancing from both sides of the mountain, each team progressing roughly 26 feet per month, despite the use of their 3 8-hour shifts. Construction of the tunnel was done by drilling holes into the rock using a hand drill and hammer. was held by a person called the shaker. His job was to turn the drill slightly after each swing and give it a shake to flip out the rock dust from within the hole. The person hammering the drill bit was the steel driver. He swung his hammer as hard as he could to pound the drill into the rock. Black powder was the explosive used during this time, as dynamite had not been developed yet. Mechanization had not been developed either, so after each explosion, the men had to pick up the pieces by hand and put them into a cart to be hauled away. The workers were tasked with creating a tunnel for one railroad track that was 16 feet wide and 20 feet high. The design was elliptical shape, seen as an advantage in providing adequate clearance, support for the tunnel, and cost less to construct. Now, you would think blasting through solid rock was the most difficult part of the tunnel project, but dealing with softer rock turned out to be much more challenging. When they encountered solid rock, there was no need for additional bracing to create a roof for the tunnel, but soft rock did require reinforcement. The only way to do that was to use arching brick to shore up the ceiling of soft rock areas. During construction of the Western Wall, workers exposed a fracture filled with water about 900 feet in. As a result, all these years later, the tunnel constantly stays wet. Ditches were added to the tunnel to funnel the water out. Workers also encountered ventilation problems, which were remedied through the use of a ventilating device, so named after its inventor, Sir John Burgoyne. This device was powered by mules on a treadmill and allowed work to continue, constructing vertical ventilation shafts to this depth. 6 years after construction.
Everybody still here?
Yeah.
On Christmas Day, 1856, crews drilled a hole through. It took an additional 2 years after breaking through and converging for a train to be able to run through the tunnel. During World War II, freight and passenger traffic swamped the railroads. In response to the demand for the increased rail service, the C&O Railway opened a new Blue Ridge Tunnel in 1944, parallel to the original tunnel. After opening the new tunnel, the original Blue Ridge Tunnel was retired. This newer tunnel is 3,948 feet in length. As we travel from the west side to the east side, if you're able to look out the rear of the train, you will start to see the westward portal disappear as we go around a curve within the tunnel. As we near exiting the east side portal, the west side portal is no longer in sight. The same holds true in reverse when entering the tunnel from the east side. The west side opening is nowhere to be seen. With the train speed you're riding at today, it takes about 1 minute 45 seconds to 2 minutes to go from one end of the tunnel to the other. In November 2020, the Claudius Crozet Blue Ridge Tunnel Trail Foundation, in conjunction with the city of Waynesboro, Albemarle, Augusta, and Nelson counties, reopened the original tunnel to create a walking and biking trail. As we exit the portal of the tunnel on its east side, out the north side of the passenger car, you should see a black fence, walking path, and a parking lot near the Afton Depot. This is so named the Blue Ridge Tunnel Trail, where visitors can take in not only nature, but railroad history. Today, only 2 of the 4 tunnels constructed by the Blue Ridge Railroad under the guidance of Claudius Crozet remain as operating tunnels, the Little Rock Tunnel and the Blue Ridge Tunnel. The others have fallen away and been completely opened up. The remnants of these tunnels are some of the rock structures we cut through today on the east side of the tunnel. Often the Blue Ridge Tunnel is referred to as the Afton Tunnel, but the Blue Ridge Tunnel doesn't actually go through Afton Mountain. Rather, it passes through the southern end of what's called Scott Mountain. Rockfish Gap is the holler that separates the Scott and Afton Mountains. But when you look down at the peaks of the 2 mountains, they seem to be right up against each other. Afton Mountain sprawls between both Albemarle and Nelson counties and appears just east of the Blue Ridge Tunnel. As the Blue Ridge Railroad made progress from West Charlottesville to Waynesboro, Afton Station became the outlet used by area farmers to ship their products to markets in the east. Today, tourists particularly enjoy visiting Afton Mountain, Rockfish Gap, as well as the Blue Ridge Parkway and Skyline Drive. The area has become known for its many vineyards and wineries, breweries, and nearby outdoor recreational opportunities. The wooded station-like building you see on the north side of the track is actually not an original railroad structure, but was built by a dentist as his office to resemble a railroad station. The Blue Ridge Trail has a parking lot and can be accessed at West Afton. The Afton train siding is over 3/4 of a mile long and provides a location for trains to safely pass each other. Over into the Shenandoah Valley. These long whistle blows are done as a warning to anyone who may be walking inside the tunnel to get out as a train is coming. Unlike the Blue Ridge Tunnel, this tunnel does not have any areas to duck down or duck out of the way. This tunnel has very close clearance between the rail car and rock. Luckily, this tunnel is only 80 feet in length, and daylight can be seen end to end. Rock in this area of the mountain was much more dense and required no arching brick lining to support the tunnel roof. To this day, it still has no supporting features. In 1944, when the Chesapeake and Ohio chose to abandon the original Blue Ridge Tunnel for a newer, larger tunnel, the Little Rock Tunnel was expanded to accommodate larger trains. What you see today is the result of that expansion. Despite being a quaint little tunnel, this tunnel lays claim to an incident dating back to the early 1900s. On September 30th, 1907, the Frank A. Robbins circus train was making its way back from Charlottesville to Staunton during the late evening hours. The train had been assigned an engine for its return trip to the valley that may have been the predecessor of the little engine that could. As the mountain grade increased, the engine's drive wheels began alternately to slip and grab, creating a jerky ride for both man and beast. The train struggled through the first 2 of 4 tunnels along the Blue Ridge Railroad. On board the train, no crew members were aware that the continual jostling and swaying had loosened some of the blocks securing the cages and wagons on the flatbed cars. Then, partway through the Little Rock Tunnel, the train jerked to a sudden stop. Train crew and circus staff got off the train with their lanterns and headed towards the rear of the train, which was still in Little Rock Tunnel. As they approached the tunnel, their concern worsened as sounds of howling animals mingled with human voices. Moaning could be heard. Squinting through the blackness with only lanterns, a mass of jumbled metal, moans, and animal noises lay within Little Rock. Several of the heavy stacked animal cages had come loose, and a top cage, having turned sideways inside the tunnel, was flung off the top of another cage and into a steam piano wagon on the car behind it, partially crushing the wagon. Unbeknownst to the train and circus crews were 5 stowaway boys who had snuck away from Staunton to Charlottesville to watch the circus, and had snuck aboard the train for its return trip in the steam piano wagon. 2 of the boys were able to climb from the wreckage, but were badly shaken. 2 others were found inside the heavily damaged steam piano, regaining consciousness. The 5th boy was found underneath the toppled cage, crushed. Along with this one human fatality was a tiger who did not survive, having been in the flung cage. Other animals were also injured when the train was jolted to a sudden stop by the cage getting wedged and flung inside the tunnel. The young deceased boy's body was left at the Afton Depot for his parents to retrieve. Injured animals were treated by veterinarians in Basic City. Arriving half a day late to Staunton, the circus train finally made its way into town, skipping the customary parade and several animal acts, yet performing a condensed show, proving the old adage, the show must go on. They say on some nights you can hear the sounds of a tiger howling in the night, possibly that of the fateful circus train wreck in 1907. Turkeys are known as Kelly Bronze. The Kelly Bronze is a unique heritage breed developed by 3 generations of the Kelly family in England. It has an unparalleled flavor, juiciness, and remarkably fast cooking time. It's so nicknamed the Rolls-Royce of turkeys. In 2012, Paul Kelly from England brought their heritage breed of turkeys to the United States and partnered with locals Judd and Carrie Culver of Heritage Glen Farms here in the outskirts of Crozet. The farm produces 1,000 turkeys per year and have recently been licensed to sell outside of Virginia. The birds are handled with utmost care from egg to oven, ranging freely on the pastures and woodlands of the Blue Ridge Mountains without hormones or antibiotics. These birds take twice as long to raise as compared to conventionally raised turkeys. This additional growth time contributes to their better than normal fat or marbling. When it comes time to process for Thanksgiving or Christmas, these birds are hand-plucked, dry-aged like wild game, which reduces moisture, allowing for better flavoring. If you want one of these birds, better open your wallet, as they sell for $150 to $200 per bird.
I know, right? Peaches. I saw a sign that says visitors will be shot.
established the town of Crozet. Farmers in this region would take their apples and peaches to the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway Station and ship them to markets. The former railway station is now a library and gift shop. The siding today in Crozet is still used for trains to safely pass each other. We're approaching the town of Crozet, so named for Claudius Crozet, the civil engineer charged with building the tunnels along this route for the Blue Ridge Railroad during the 1850s. Born in France, Claudius served in Napoleon's army. In 1860, he emigrated to the United States, where he joined the U.S. Army at West Point, New York. At West Point, Crozet became a distinguished professor of engineering. In 1839, he was one of the founders of the Virginia Military Institute in Lexington, Virginia, and became its first Board of Visitors president. One of Crozet's crowning achievements was to engineer and direct the construction of the Blue Ridge Tunnel at Rockfish Gap for the Blue Ridge Railroad. It took him 8 years to complete that tunnel, which he started in 1850. Upon completion, the Blue Ridge Tunnel was one of the longest tunnels in the country. In 1953, Morton Frozen Foods established a plant in Crozet, which was later bought by ConAgra Foods and operated until 2000. Today, portions of the former food plant are occupied by Music Today Inc. and Star Hill Brewery. Crozet sponsors several festivals throughout the year. Crozet also puts you very close to numerous outdoor recreational opportunities. The famed boxer, Muhammad Ali, once owned a farm just outside of Crozet.
Do I got the trash?
I'm not done with mine yet.
Still got the box.
I'm good with anybody. As long as it's not the Mets, Yankees, or Dodgers, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Trash for me?
We've come to a stop so our train crew can do what's called run around the train. Now this doesn't mean you'll see any of our train crew physically get out and run around the train. Run around the train is a railroad phrase for the process of decoupling the locomotive from one end of the train and recoupling it to the other end. Procedures for a runaround move are simple and safe. It begins by stopping the train. The conductor manually tightens the brakes. You may hear a ratcheting noise when he is doing this. That is the chain being drawn tight, applying the brake shoes to the wheel. After the shoes are tightened, the locomotive can bump slightly against the train car to make sure the brake shoes are holding the train car in place. Last thing we want is a runaway coach car. After the brakes are verified as applied, the conductor will cut the air supply off to the passenger car from the engine and separate the two pieces of equipment. The conductor communicates with the engineer that he is in a safe spot, that he has opened the knuckles, and that the locomotive can now separate away from the passenger car. Trains do not rely on brake fluid. Instead, all braking is applied through movement of air throughout the train. Each locomotive is equipped with its own air compressor. This compressor generates the air that is then moved from the air tanks on the locomotive through a pipe to a black hose, which you see at the ends of each every locomotive.
Yep. Now couple him up on the other end and then do a brake test and get over here.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
On the Virginia Scenic Railway, you may see a variety of cars, but certainly not all the types of rail cars out across the United States. The car you're in today is a passenger car. These cars are designed to carry people, the most precious commodity on the railroad. After passenger cars, there are freight cars. On the Buckingham Branch, the freight car types vary from boxcars to tank cars to covered hoppers to gondolas to coal cars, flat cars, rock cars, vacuum hopper cars, and wood chip cars. These are the majority of rail car types used on this line, but certainly not the limitation. These cars carry a variety of products, including cardboard, lumber, propane, butane, ethanol, grains, aggregates, railroad ties, transformers, plastics, and wood chips. There are other rail cars out there across the country, including autorack cars, intermodal cars, super heavyweight cars, log cars, piggyback cars, refrigerated cars, and more. Each of these cars are designed to carry a commodity, whether in liquid, dry, or gaseous state. These commodities can also be temperature controlled throughout its journey, but more often than not, these products are able to be shipped as is. Often we are asked if we use a caboose. The answer is sometimes. Back in the day, cabooses had a few purposes. Not only were they a location for a brakeman and trainmen to keep an eye on their train, but also were a train crew's home away from home. When a train crew is in the locomotive, it can be almost impossible to see the entire train you are pulling if it's of any great length. A train engineer can potentially have no idea anything is going wrong behind him because of a train's length. Trains back in the day could be upwards of half a mile in length or more, and that could put the tail end of the train out of sight to the train crew in the front that's possibly going around curves or up and down mountains. Larger freight trains today are often at minimum a mile in length, but more often 2 miles long. Today's trains have electronic boxes on the rear which can notify the train crew in the front something may be wrong with the brakes and they should stop the train. Back then though, trainmen and brakemen would ride the caboose and use flags or lanterns or flares to communicate to the locomotive things were good on the tail end of the train. Nothing dragging, nothing coming loose, no hot wheels, or that something's not looking right and they should stop. However, this could only be communicated when a train was in an open curve where an engineer could look back and see his train, or on a straight section of track. Trainmen in the caboose could also apply the brakes manually should they feel the need to stop. This would notify the engineer in the front something is wrong, as the train would begin to slow without him braking. Trainmen in the caboose could also manage their paperwork for the train, ensuring customers' orders and cars were delivered to the right location. In the early days, all paperwork was done manually with pencil and paper. When a train crew arrived to its destination and their day was done, this train crew could camp out in their caboose car for the night until they were ready for their next run. Often these men would not necessarily go back to the same place they started. Railroads back then often sent these men away for days, going from destination to destination before heading back to their home station. These cabooses were often equipped with a pot-belly stove for cooking on and warming the car. Often had a toilet and a tank of water that was gravity fed, and bunk or bench to sleep on, in addition to a few captain's chairs and a desk. Today, cabooses are nearly extinct, as during the 1980s, technology evolved so much that a caboose and extra train crew personnel was no longer needed. Today, the Buckingham Branch retains a few operating cabooses, used for some freight moves, and on the Virginia Scenic Railway for show.
What? It's Papa Robert.
Perfectly clear.
We are quickly approaching an underpass of Interstate 64. Interstate 64 runs east-west through the middle of the state, from West Virginia to the Hampton Roads region of Virginia, for a total of 299 miles. What's noteworthy about this section of Interstate 64 is it's equipped with an innovative system of airport-style runway lighting embedded into the pavement to aid motorists during periods of poor visibility due to fog or other conditions on the mountain.
See that view?
Yeah.
Very cool.
here. Went on Blue Ridge side, Skyline Drive side.
Okay.
So we went under 64 again. $250.
railroad crossings, have you ever noticed there is a sequence to the horn blows? 2 longs, a short, and a long? This sequence dates back to the Queen of England, when she used to travel by ship down the River Thames. In Morse code, the letter Q is communicated by 2 longs, a short, and a long. The letter Q in this example stood for Queen. Ships would do a long, long, short, and long sequence to announce to other ships in the harbor, this is the Queen, get out of the way. When the Queen switched from traveling by boat to rail, the same signal sequence followed. Train engineers thus too would blow 2 longs, a short, and a long. When U.S. railroads began, the tradition from England was maintained as the standard signal, and it's still used today, almost 200 years later. Rules regulated by the Federal Railroad Administration dictate that 15 to 20 seconds before the train enters the crossing, but no more than a quarter mile from reaching the intersection of track and road, train engineers should begin this sequence. The last long is to last for the entire time the train is going through the crossing. Note, however, train horn sequences, lengths for beginning and end, are completely subject to the train engineer's judgment. This feature is not automated to be perfect every time. It's simply a rule that all train engineers must abide by across the country. If you're looking for more railroad-related things to do here in Virginia, there are attractions nearby we'd like to highly recommend. First on our list, the C&O Railway Heritage Center. You should know that the line you're riding on today continues west to the town of Clifton Forge, Virginia, the home of the C&O Railway Heritage Center. This museum has a broad collection of freight cars, passenger cars, and locomotives from the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway. The museum has its own signal tower, no longer in use, an O-gauge model train room, and a gift shop. This museum is open daily throughout the year. Be sure to check out their website, candoheritage.org. Just a little ways south down Interstate 81 is the city of Roanoke. Back in the day, it was known as the town of Big Lick. In Roanoke, you'll find the Virginia Museum of Transportation. The large museum presents numerous rail cars and locomotives of yesteryear. You'll also find other relic forms of transportation, including vintage cars and airplanes. Also in Roanoke, be sure to stop by the O. Winston Link Museum. This museum is known for documenting the end of the steam locomotive era of the former Norfolk and Western Railroad. You might know that train line today as the Norfolk Southern Railroad. The O. Winston Link Museum is actually located in a former passenger train station. Your visit there will give you a unique opportunity to admire some of America's most iconic train photography.
The tunnel was really long.
Yeah.
I gotta go to the bathroom before we get there.
Alright, go.
I think I can make it.
What, to the bathroom?
I don't think I can walk down the aisle to it. I think I'll wait.
Oh, like, 'cause we're moving?
Yeah. Too shaky.
Yeah, 'cause I went while I was down there.
Yeah. good. I had to get onto the DMV website because Jonathan saw that the registration was a year old, or ran out in June, and we usually usually get something from DMV. I get something from DMV to update my registration. Well, anyway, I didn't get anything, so I got on there and I updated it for 2 years, and you had to pay late fees on your car. It's like $116. Yeah, I gotta print out a receipt when I get home. I know, I didn't even realize it. It either got lost in the mail with your other stuff, or it never came. And it should have. So, I was wondering
All right,
if
ladies
you
and
wouldn't
gentlemen.
mind
Some of you more astute observers of the
taking
human
us out to
situation
dinner.
may have noticed that we have come to a stop.
No,
Furthermore,
no.
there may be a handful
On
of
your
you that have
card.
noticed that we have come to a stop next to a gas station. And I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Mike, is the locomotive out of fuel?
No.
Yes, we have run out of fuel. So, our locomotive has a 2,500
All right.
gallon fuel tank,
Bye.
and it's going to pull up to the rear of the train and we're going to gas it up. So, that takes a lot of time and money, so I'm going to come around to each seat and gather a $20 bill from everybody to help offset those fuel costs. I am joking, of course. We are not out of fuel. Ladies and gentlemen, we are running around the train again, so the engine is going to come from the front and then attach to the back and push us back to Staunton. And the reason this is doing this is because maybe some of you have heard about the 611. There's a steam engine in town. Not really in town, it's in Goshen, but it runs from Goshen to Staunton and then back to Goshen, so our west route is tied up. So our train will run 2 east routes tomorrow. So in order to set ourselves up for that run, we have to run around the train here, because this is the last spot we can do it before we get to the yard. So that is why we are stopped. Hello. I understand it's your birthday, sir.
museums down here.
We're like all over Virginia.
Yeah. I would rather eat it cheap. Like you did a rice bowl.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's karaoke time. Do you guys like Yoko Ono? I do a great rendition of her song called... Alright, never mind. Guys, we're going to be pulling back into the station here in just a minute. A couple things before you go. First of all, when we pull back into the station and come to a stop, I'm going to ask that everyone remain seated. I'm going to get off the train, bring over the steps, and roll out that red carpet for you all one more time. And then I will be right back to dismiss everybody. Secondly, this trip is all inclusive, which means that I cannot accept tips. But if you would like to put in a good word, I would encourage you guys to write a review on Facebook or Google or MySpace, or wherever you are online. And tell us about your experience. If you loved it, give us 5 stars. If you didn't like it, well, still give us 5 stars.
Yeah.
But tell us what you didn't enjoy. We're always open to criticism, and we're here to grow. So we appreciate y'all's input. If you enjoyed my service, feel free to mention my name. My name is Mike. If you did not enjoy my service, then my name is Billy Bob. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today on the Virginia Scenic Railroad.
All right. I thought he was back there playing the banjo.
I donated you to the production, so we're going to do a new training.
weird place to build a station on a hill.
It was probably here before anybody else was here.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think you told me to do a cover on that.